Hello again, Jeff Koppel, Realtor and General Contractor. Uh, One of the previous videos I did was on an inspection report, and one of the things that I mentioned or noticed on that inspection report was an old panel, old electrical panel. I think that inspection report called out a Federal Pacific panel. So I thought I'd talk to that a little bit because that, of course, if you Google Federal Pacific electrical issues, you'll get all kinds of information out there about how risky they are and everything. So I thought what I would do is produce a video that help you recognize whether or not you have one of these panels in a house that you're considering buying or one that you're looking at selling. So let's take a look here. What I did is I downloaded a few photos into a document and just thought I would kind of review with you. Now, bear in mind, I'm not a licensed electrician, but I have been in construction for 22 years and I work very closely with a lot of the electricians. So I'm familiar with, the identification of the panels as well as the replacement procedure. So I'll just kind of go over that today. Now, here's one of the panels that you're probably going to see a lot in Texas. This is probably the configuration that I noticed the most for the Federal Pacific panel. And typically this will be in, an all electric or a gas appliance type house as well, but typically the larger homes, maybe a multi-story home. So here's another panel. Here's a little one. Now this one is only a 100 amp breaker panel. And this one would probably be, you'd see the most in a smaller home with gas appliances. So a lot less electrical demands in the home because they're using gas appliances, gas water heater, gas furnace, gas range. So they're going to have less electrical breakers in them. And here is another good shot of a Federal Pacific panel. You can see here it's got the logo Stab-Lok. That's they're basically their brand name of their breakers that they use in those panels. And this is another panel configuration that you'll see. Now, notice one feature of all the panels I've showed so far is there's no master breaker. In other words, there's no main breaker to disconnect the entire panel in a lot of these older panels. Now, I know Federal Pacific gets all the press, but there's another brand that you might want to consider replacing as well, and that's the old Sylvania Zinsco panels. Very similar construction architecture on the breaker that the Federal Pacific panel has. These don't have as much failure rate reporting, but they're about the same vintage, and I know the technology was real similar, so it may be worth your time to replace these as well. And here's a picture of a Zinsco panel. I think the progression of things, I think it was Zinsco first and Sylvania bottom out. So I think that's kind of how it worked. But again, no main shut off for the entire panel, just all individual breakers. So, like I said, there's a lot of press out there about how Federal Pacific panels are dangerous, and I think I went over in one of the videos I did before that it's the dissimilar metals in the breaker that cause it to corrode and cause it not to trip when it's overloaded. Now, you think, some people might say, well, it's been in the house for 50 years and it's never caught on fire. Okay, well, that's true, but when you think about the energy demands that we have in our home now, back when that house was built, we didn't have microwave ovens. We may have had one television. We didn't have all the appliances that we run now in a kitchen. We definitely didn't have any PCs, any home computers, any gaming systems, any of that. So quite honestly, the energy requirements in a typical home are more now than they used to be. And so it's a really good idea that, if you have one of these panels in a home, you get it replaced. Now, what does the electrician do? There's a couple advantages to getting the new panel as well. I don't know if you remember me talking about how all the old systems used to be grounded to the cold water supply line that came into the house because it was copper and it was buried in the dirt. So they just double dutied it basically and ran the ground a wire from the main electrical panel to that pipe. Well, when you get the panel replaced, the electrician is actually going to go outside, and he's going to pound in one or multiple 8-foot long copper clad bars into the ground, and that's going to be your ground from your new panel. So he's basically going to abandon that ground that is tied to the cold water supply line. Because this way, today, the inspectors want to be able to see that ground physically connected to something that's buried in the earth. So that's why they've gone to the exterior ground rod. And quite honestly, it's a better deal. I mean, if your house, happens to get, an energy overload, it's definitely going to have a route to, to transfer that overload to. So it's definitely a good thing. Now, electrician, the way they're going to replace that panel is they're actually going to run new wire up into the attic or another conveniently located space, and there'll be a big junction box up there. Well, he will tie in the new wires from the new panel to the existing services that run throughout the house, and everything is isolated. It's wire netted. It's held clamped tight to this junction box so that they're good, secure connections. And usually as part of the panel replacement, they'll verify all the circuitry in the house as well. So anyway, I hope that explains a little bit more about, how to identify the Federal Pacific and the Sylvania and the Zinsco panels that you might want to consider replacing. Now, if you need a contact in Texas for replacing those panels, I'd be more than happy to give you a referral. Just send me a request via email, and I can look up an electrician in your area if you're outside of North Texas, and I can help you identify someone that can replace this panel for you. I hesitate to quote a replacement price because with COVID, prices have gone up and down so much that I usually have to call for a quote every time I do one of these now. So anyway, again, there's my email at the bottom, jeffkoppel@gmail.com. Please send me your ideas for videos. I'd be happy to answer any questions of real estate related as well as general construction, home repair related questions. So anyway, thanks for watching, and see you on the next one.